Everything you want begins with clarity, not hope, not chance. Clarity. Until you know exactly what you want, you'll keep settling for less than you deserve. You'll chase distractions. You'll follow noise. You'll end up living by someone else's standards, because you never took the time to define your own. Life doesn't hand over rewards to the unclear. It hands over confusion. So if you want to get what you ask for every time, you must first become the kind of person who knows what they want. Not vaguely, not maybe, not someday, but clearly, precisely, and fully aligned with their values. Most people don't ask for what they want. They hint, they hope, they wait for someone else to offer it. But life responds to the bold. It responds to those who show up with conviction. When you walk into the room and you carry certainty, people feel it. When you ask, and you ask with truth behind your voice, it moves people, and not just people. The world around you begins to shift, but there's a catch. You can't fake it. You can't force what you haven't earned internally. If you want your words to carry weight, they must be rooted in belief. And belief comes from preparation, from discipline, from doing the work when no one's watching. Every time you put in the effort behind the scenes, you build a foundation. You build credibility with yourself, and that credibility is what gives your words power. So it's not about just asking, it's about who's doing the asking. The question is, are you someone others can say yes to? Are you someone your own mind respects? That's the work. To become a person who doesn't need to scream to be heard, who doesn't need to beg to receive, who doesn't need to prove themselves to strangers, because they've already proved themselves to themselves. When you lack belief in yourself, everything you ask for will carry a whisper of doubt, and people can hear it. You don't say it, but it's in the tone, it's in the hesitation, it's in the way your shoulders drop slightly when you finish your sentence, like you're already preparing for rejection. But when you've done the work, when you've stayed up late learning, when you've gotten up early training, when you've sacrificed your comfort for progress, you ask with a quiet authority. You don't ask like you're hoping. You ask like it's time. That's what changes everything. Now, asking is not demanding. It's not manipulating. It's not forcing your will. It's making your intention known, clearly and respectfully. It's standing for what matters to you and giving others a chance to meet you there. The mistake people make is they wait until they're frustrated to speak up. They wait until they're desperate, and by then the energy has already shifted. The ask becomes reactive, not intentional. That's not how you get what you want. That's how you push it further away. To ask well, you need to start early. You need to speak from a place of grounded calm, not emotional urgency. The more centered you are, the more weight your words carry. The more centered you are, the more people want to listen. Why? Because we trust people who aren't shaken by circumstances. We listen to those who are calm under pressure, because if they're calm, they must know something. They must have done the work. You want something? Start asking with presence, not panic. Ask with clarity, not confusion. Ask with belief, not desperation. But here's another truth. Most don't want to hear. Asking is not just about words. It's about action. Every action you take is a form of asking. When you train hard in the dark, you're asking for strength. So when you keep your word when no one's around, you're asking for respect. When you show up early, stay focused, take ownership, grow, learn, adapt, you're asking life to trust you with more, and life responds. Over time, it responds. If your actions don't match your desires, your words will ring hollow. So ask with your life. Ask with your habits. Ask with your behavior. Then when the moment comes to speak, you'll speak from alignment, not contradiction. You also need to ask the right people. Not everyone is qualified to give you what you want. You might be asking people who don't even believe in themselves to believe in you. You might be asking for loyalty from people who don't even honor their own word. You might be asking for support from those who only understand scarcity. And when they say no, you take it personally. But that no had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with where they're at. So stop expecting water from empty wells. Start choosing wisely who you bring your vision to. Don't scatter your energy. Don't plead with people who don't have the capacity to understand you. There are people out there who will say yes, who will invest, who will support. But you have to find them. You have to position yourself around those who recognize value when they see it. And to do that, you need to be showing your value daily, not in loud ways, but in the way you carry yourself, in the way you move, in the way you handle challenges, in the way you treat others. You teach people how to respond to you by the way you show up. Every day you're training the world how to see you. If you show up small, hesitant, unsure, don't be surprised when the world reflects that back to you. But if you show up grounded, prepared, intentional, the world starts to listen. You want to ask and receive? Then start becoming the version of you who is undeniable. You see, most people think confidence is about speaking louder. No, confidence is about earning your own respect. That's the real source. You don't need external validation when you've built internal proof. Every day you have a chance to build that. Not through shortcuts, not through appearances, but through quiet consistency, through focus, through learning, through applying what you've learned. Even when it's uncomfortable, and you will face resistance. You will be told no. You will be overlooked. And that's part of it, not because you're not good enough, but because most people can't see what they've never trained themselves to recognize. But your job isn't to convince everyone. Your job is to keep becoming someone who no longer needs convincing. You keep going. You keep sharpening your skills. You keep showing your value. And when the time comes to ask, you do it from a place of earned self-trust. Asking also requires timing. There's a moment to speak, and there's a moment to listen. If you interrupt too soon, you lose the connection. If you wait too long, the opportunity passes. You have to read the moment. You have to be aware, present, alert. This is why inner stillness matters. Not for the sake of feeling calm, but for the clarity it brings in high-stakes moments. Stillness allows you to feel when the door is open. And when you feel that opening, you step in. No hesitation, no second guessing. You've done the work. You've aligned your actions. You've earned your place. Now you speak. Now you ask. And if the answer is no, you don't collapse. You listen. You learn. You adjust. Maybe the ask wasn't right. Maybe the timing was off. Maybe the person wasn't aligned. Fine. You don't make it mean more than it does. You don't let it define you. You keep moving forward, because one no doesn't erase your value. One rejection doesn't cancel your preparation. It's just data, feedback. That's all. You use it. You grow from it. You ask again, this time smarter, this time clearer, this time better positioned. This is how you build momentum. This is how you train the world to respond differently. Because life doesn't just give to those who wait. It gives to those who ask, with full alignment. Mind, body, energy, intention, all working in the same direction. And it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. But if you stay the course, if you keep growing, if you keep refining your ask and upgrading who you are, the results come, not randomly, not out of luck, but because you've created the conditions for it. And here's what you need to remember. When the results come, they don't show up in a perfect package. They often arrive as responsibility, as challenge, as pressure. That's how life checks if you're ready for what you asked for. You say you want more. Great. Here's more to handle. You say you want success. Good. Here's a new level of expectations. You say you want to lead. Then here's people who need guidance when you're exhausted. That's the real test. And if you shy away from that, you weren't really asking. You were just daydreaming. So ask and be ready to rise when the opportunity calls. You get what you ask for when you're willing to become the person who can carry it. Not just enjoy it, not just show it off, but carry it, protect it, grow it, and use it to serve. You think the universe gives real power to those who only want to decorate their life? No, it gives power to those who are ready to be responsible with it. That's the shift. And when you step into that mindset, something changes in you. You stop blaming. You stop waiting. You stop hoping someone will save you. You start showing up like someone who knows they're responsible for how this plays out. You start asking, not like a child hoping for candy, but like a leader requesting resources. Calm, clear, certain. That's when doors open, and you need to practice it daily. Not just when the stakes are high. Practice asking clearly in every area of your life. Practice stating your needs. Practice setting boundaries. Practice making requests. Not from fear, not from entitlement, but from strength. You're not asking for a favor. You're asking for alignment. You're not asking for pity. You're asking for partnership. You're not asking for shortcuts. You're asking for opportunity. And when you carry yourself with that kind of energy, people notice. They don't always say it, but they feel it. And eventually the right ones say yes. But you have to trust the long game. You have to understand that not every seed grows overnight. Some take seasons. Some require changes in the environment. Some require that you change before the result appears. And that's hard for people who crave quick wins. But lasting success, the kind you can build a life on, it comes from asking, acting and adjusting again and again with patience, with faith, and with a relentless standard. Not perfection, but consistency. Consistency wins. Always. You don't have to be the loudest. You don't have to be the smartest. But you do have to be consistent. If you keep showing up with intention, you keep asking with alignment, and you keep growing your capacity, the world bends. It begins to work with you. And if it doesn't, you build your own path. You stop asking for permission to be great. You stop waiting for a gatekeeper to let you in. You create your own table. You build your own momentum. That's how the great ones do it. Not by waiting to be chosen, but by choosing themselves first, and then proving they were right to do so. Most people ask from a place of lack. They believe something is missing in them, so they try to get it from the outside. But real asking doesn't come from lack. It comes from purpose. You know who you are. You know what you're here to do. And you're not asking to be completed. You're asking to move forward, to accelerate, to multiply what's already strong. That's a different posture. That's a different energy. And it produces different results. So ask for the opportunity and bring the preparation with it. Ask for the role and bring the results that support it. Ask for the investment and bring the clarity that earns it. Ask for the relationship and bring the wholeness that sustains it. Ask for the raise and bring the value that justifies it. Ask not from ego, but from evidence. That's what gets you the yes. Not always immediately, not always easily, but eventually, without a doubt. And when you get it, don't relax. Don't coast. Don't assume the work is over. It's just beginning. Because getting what you ask for is only step one. Keeping it, growing it, honoring it. That's where your discipline is tested. That's where your integrity shows up. That's where the real work begins. And that's where most people fail. Not because they didn't ask well, but because they didn't live well after the answer came. So stay sharp, stay grateful, stay grounded. Don't let success soften you. Don't let results make you complacent. Remember what you asked for. Remember what it took to earn it. And remember who you became along the way. That version of you is the reason doors opened. Stay close to that. Stay in alignment with that. And keep asking, not just for things, but for growth, for wisdom, for responsibility, for impact. Ask life to stretch you, to test you, to refine you, to make you better, and then show up ready. Every time. This is how it works. You get clear, you build belief, you take action, you stay consistent, you ask with intention, you stay present, you grow through the feedback, you don't quit, you don't chase, you don't beg, you align, you refine, and then you receive. Not always instantly, but always eventually. And that's how you ask for what you want, and get it. Every time. You want the truth? Most people never get what they want, because they never sit down long enough to define it. They chase a feeling, not a goal. They chase approval, not purpose. And when they don't get it, they call life unfair. But life isn't unfair. Life is precise. It gives to those who are clear. It responds to those who are intentional. It rewards those who move with purpose and pay the price with discipline. The world doesn't give you what you fantasize about. It gives you what you're willing to work for with clarity, with grit, and with consistency. That's the rule. That's the formula. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop waiting to be lucky. You stop hoping things will shift on their own. You stop looking around to see who else is moving. You just go. Because now, you know where you're going. And once you know what you want, truly want, you stop asking small. You stop asking with doubt in your voice. You stop asking like you're hoping not to be rejected. You ask like someone who understands their value, like someone who's done the work, like someone who's already halfway there. Because that's what confidence is. Not arrogance, not noise, but evidence. Evidence that you've shown up day after day and built something real. When you speak with that kind of clarity and strength, people hear it differently. Even the ones who say no, they remember you. And if you stay consistent, they come back. Not because you begged, but because your energy never wavered. That's influence. That's power. That's what separates those who get what they ask for and those who don't. And listen closely. Asking doesn't always mean words. Sometimes the most powerful ask is how you show up, the way you carry yourself, the way you treat others, the way you operate when nobody's watching, the energy you bring into a room, the way you handle rejection, the way you stay calm under pressure. That's the ask. And people feel it before you ever open your mouth. You don't have to demand. You don't have to force. You don't have to manipulate. You just need to be aligned. Aligned with your purpose. Aligned with your vision. Aligned with your values. Aligned with your actions. Because when you are, you start to attract what fits. Not just what's available. Not just what's convenient, but what truly fits. And that's how you build something that lasts. But don't misunderstand. Alignment doesn't mean ease. It doesn't mean everything flows perfectly without resistance. Sometimes alignment is the resistance. Sometimes life will say no to test how badly you want the yes. Sometimes the door closes so you can find the key inside yourself. And sometimes people will walk away, not because you were wrong, but because you finally stopped playing small to keep them comfortable. That's the cost of asking boldly. You lose what wasn't meant for the next level. You let go of what can't grow with you. You step into a version of yourself that no longer needs permission. And when that happens, you start asking for more. Not from ego, but from truth. Not because you think you deserve more than others, but because you've become more than who you used to be. And that's the key. You don't get what you want just because you want it. You get it because you've become the kind of person who can't not have it. You've become the person who lives with such intention, such discipline, such clarity, that the outcome becomes inevitable. That's the real ask. The life you live becomes the request. Every choice you make becomes a statement. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. This is what I expect from myself and from life. So ask. Ask life to push you harder. Ask for the strength to keep going when it gets heavy. Ask for the discipline to stick to the plan when nobody's watching. Ask for the courage to keep believing when the results are slow. Ask for the patience to build it right, not fast. Ask for the focus to block out the noise and stay the course. Ask for the wisdom to know what's worth pursuing and what's just distraction dressed up as opportunity. Ask not just for more. Ask to become more. Because the real reward is not the thing you get. The real reward is who you have to become in the process of getting it. The habits you had to change, the fears you had to face, the boundaries you had to set, the skills you had to build, the standards you had to raise, the people you had to outgrow. That's the real gain. That's the part nobody can take from you. You could lose everything tomorrow, and if you've built yourself strong enough, you'd rebuild it all. Faster, cleaner, better, because the foundation is no longer outside you. It's in who you've become, and that is power. So keep asking, with your thoughts, with your words, with your life. Every morning, ask yourself, am I moving with purpose? Am I living aligned with what I say I want? Am I building the habits that reflect my future, not just my past? Am I treating today like it matters? Because it does. Every ask you make, spoken or unspoken, ripples through your life. It shapes what you notice. It shapes how you act. It shapes what you tolerate. It shapes who you become. So be careful what you ask for, not because life won't give it to you, but because it will. You say you want strength, then expect struggle. You say you want wisdom, then expect mistakes. You say you want discipline, then expect temptation. You say you want growth, then expect discomfort. This is the path. This is how it works. And if you're serious, truly serious, you'll embrace every part of it. You'll stop resisting the hard moments. You'll stop waiting for it to be easy. You'll start asking, not for less challenge, but for more capacity. Not for fewer obstacles, but for more clarity. Not for lighter loads, but for a stronger back. Because that's the version of you who gets what they want. Every time. Not because it's handed to them. Not because it's easy, but because they've built themselves to handle it, and that's the version of you the world is waiting for. So here's the truth you have to hold on to. When the world seems too loud, too busy, too fast. When it feels like your efforts aren't moving anything. When you question if asking is even worth it. The world doesn't move for noise, it moves for certainty. It bends not for the one who yells the loudest, but for the one who stays the longest. The one who outlasts doubt. The one who keeps asking with action. Not just words. You don't ask once and wait. You ask with your schedule. You ask with your effort. You ask by how early you rise and how late you stay disciplined. You ask by how seriously you take your craft, your health, your habits, your relationships. Because every single day your life is asking back, how bad do you want it? And most people fold. Not because they don't want it, but because they've trained themselves to settle the moment it gets uncomfortable. They walk around with quiet dreams and loud distractions. They settle for just enough, because deep down they're afraid that going all in might break them. But that's the problem. Not going all in is what breaks you. Wasting your energy on what doesn't matter. That's what breaks you. Shrinking for fear of judgment. That's what breaks you. So you have to rise above it. You have to make a new decision about who you are. You have to decide that the old version of you, the one who second-guessed, delayed, procrastinated, gave half effort, is done. And from now on you move different. You show up different. You think different. Because now you're not just interested in success, you're committed to it. There's a difference. Interest waits for motivation. Commitment shows up anyway. Interest asks when it's easy. Commitment asks even when it's hard. Because now you've made the shift, and once you've made that shift, everything becomes a signal. Every obstacle is data. Every delay is training. Every no is just redirection, not rejection. You don't take it personally anymore, because you've built yourself from the inside. You've stopped asking for approval and started asking for alignment. You've stopped chasing comfort and started demanding growth. And when you live like that, life meets you on your level. You don't have to chase. You don't have to convince. You don't have to prove. You just become, and people feel it. They trust you because you trust yourself. They invest in you because you've invested in yourself. They follow you because you've proven that you're going somewhere worth following. That's the result of asking right. Not asking for a shortcut, but asking what's required. Not asking why me, but asking how do I level up. Not asking to avoid pain, but asking to use it. You want to get what you want every time. You start by being the one who doesn't fold when life pushes back. You stay in the room when others leave. You stay steady when the storm hits. You speak clearly when others hesitate. You live in such a way that the world has no choice but to respond. Because your actions are undeniable. People think it's about confidence, but confidence is the outcome. Clarity is the cause. You don't build confidence by hyping yourself up. You build it by keeping promises to yourself. By doing the thing you said you'd do. Long after the feeling you had when you said it is gone. That's where it starts. You wake up and take care of the little things. Not because someone's watching, but because you are. You respect your time. You protect your energy. You speak with direction. You act with intensity. You make decisions that reflect your future, not your past. And over time your life begins to change. Not overnight, not magically, but predictably, because effort compounds. Discipline compounds. Clarity compounds. And every ask you make along the way begins to carry more weight. Because now you're not just asking from a place of want, you're asking from a place of work. You've done the internal work. You've walked through the fire. You've let go of comfort. You've said no to shortcuts. And now the things you once hoped for, you now expect, not out of entitlement, but out of understanding. You understand what it took. You understand what it costs. You understand that if you've built the foundation, you're allowed to ask for the result, and not just ask, demand it from yourself. Because that's where it really starts with you. You don't get what you want because you told the world. You get what you want because you told yourself, and then lived in alignment with that decision. So ask. Ask boldly. Ask clearly. Ask consistently. But ask with your life first. Ask by becoming the kind of person who backs their words with action. Ask by becoming so focused that distraction can't find a home in you. Ask by becoming so rooted in purpose that no rejection can move you off your path. Because the truth is, you were never waiting for permission. You were waiting for certainty. You were waiting to look in the mirror and finally say, I've got what it takes, and I'm not turning back. And now that you've got it, everything changes. So stop whispering your dreams to yourself, like you're afraid to hear them out loud. Say what you want, then live in such a way that those words don't need explaining. Let your actions be the proof. Let your habits be the evidence. Let your focus be the signal. And remember, the world is always listening, not to what you say once, but to what you say daily with your behavior, your commitment, your energy, your standards. That's the real ask. And that's how you get what you want. Every time. You keep asking not with desperation, but with direction. Not because you're begging for a handout, but because you've already built a foundation. And now every step forward is not a plea. It's a claim. You're not hoping anymore. You're collecting. You're not wondering anymore. You're preparing. You've earned the right to ask because you've endured. You've refined and you've remained true when it would have been easier to quit. The world respects clarity, and it moves for those who move with purpose. But that clarity has to come from within. You don't find it scrolling. You don't find it comparing. You don't find it chasing trends. You find it in the quiet, hard moments when no one's watching, and you're still choosing to do the work. You find it in your standards. You find it in the pressure you apply to yourself when everyone else is letting up. That's where clarity is born. Because once you get clear on what you want, the world becomes simpler. Not easier, simpler. You stop negotiating with distractions. You stop entertaining detours. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't get it. You stop wasting time on things that don't move you forward. You become direct. You become focused. You become intentional. And when you walk into a room, people feel that. You don't have to sell yourself. Your presence speaks before you do. That's when your ask starts to land. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Not because you never struggled, but because you didn't stay stuck. You chose growth over comfort. You chose progress over pride. You chose movement over maintenance. And that choice shows. It shows in how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you respond to failure, how you treat people, how you structure your time, and how you refuse to settle. You've got to understand, the universe doesn't respond to fear. It responds to faith. Not blind belief, but the kind of faith that shows up in preparation. The kind that wakes up early, studies longer, listens deeper, sharpens skills, and keeps the vision alive, even when results are quiet. That kind of faith sends a signal. And that signal is how you start winning without chasing. People try to manipulate outcomes. They try to talk their way into results. But you can't out-talk a lack of preparation. You can't outsell inconsistency. You can't outperform the work you didn't do. If you want to get what you want every time, then you have to do more than want it. You have to align your daily actions with that want. That's the hardest part. That's what separates talkers from transformers. You've got to eliminate the noise. You've got to stop explaining your dream to people who've already quit on theirs. You've got to stop looking for shortcuts that only lead back to where you started. You've got to stop accepting average and then wondering why excellence feels far away. Because the gap isn't outside you, it's within. It's between what you say and what you do, between what you hope for and what you prepare for, between who you've been and who you're becoming. Close that gap, and suddenly what once seemed out of reach becomes predictable. Not easy, but within reach. Because now you're not asking from weakness, you're asking from strength. Not arrogance, but earned confidence, and confidence changes everything. Confidence is not loud. It doesn't brag. It doesn't chase applause. It just is. It's quiet. It's certain. It's built, not borrowed. It's earned in moments when nobody's around. It's forged in sweat, not words. And when you ask from that place, people listen. The universe listens. Opportunities open. Doors swing wide because you've become the kind of person who belongs on the other side. This is how you ask for what you want and get it. Not by hoping, not by faking, not by luck, but by becoming the kind of person who deserves it. The kind who won't be denied, because you've already paid the price in discipline, in consistency, in patience, in grit. You've shown up long enough to become undeniable. You've struggled long enough to become unshakable. You've endured long enough to become unbreakable. And now your ask carries weight, not just because of what you want, but because of who you've become. So keep going. Keep asking with action. Keep building what others quit on. Keep honoring the vision you were given. Because if you stay true, if you stay steady, then what you want is already on its way. Not by chance, not by magic, but by design, by effort, by decision. And one day you'll look back, not surprised that you got it, but proud that you never gave up asking for it. And when that day comes, it won't be about the thing you asked for. It won't be the money, the job, the recognition, the house, the title. What you'll feel isn't the thrill of possession. It's the power of transformation. You'll realize the true reward wasn't in receiving. It was in becoming. Becoming someone who stopped waiting. Someone who took full responsibility. Someone who chose to ask, not with empty words, but with a full life behind it. A life of effort. A life of purpose. A life of no excuses. People will ask you how you did it. They'll wonder what the secret was. And you won't need to give a speech. You won't need to tell your whole story. They'll see it in your eyes. They'll hear it in your voice. They'll feel it in your presence. Because the secret isn't a tactic. It's a standard. It's the standard you chose to live by every single day when nobody was watching. That's what separates the few from the many. Not talent, not timing, not luck. Standards. You asked for more because you expected more from yourself. You didn't ask the world to hand you a life. You asked yourself to create one. And you backed that request with every choice, every sacrifice, every early morning, every late night, every hard decision that said, I'm not quitting on this. And in the end, that's what matters. Not how perfect the path was, not how fast the results came, but that you kept showing up, that you never let the fear of asking stop you from building, that you stayed humble but hungry, grounded but driven, quiet but relentless. Now listen carefully. You can't control everything. You can't predict when the answer will come, but you can control the energy you bring. You can control the work you do. You can control how you respond when the door doesn't open the first time, or the second, or the fifth. You can decide to knock again and again and again, not because you're entitled, but because you've earned the right to be heard. And that's the difference. When you ask with substance behind it, when your request is backed by persistence, skill, clarity, and character, people notice, the world notices. The right people open their eyes. The right doors swing open. Because you weren't just asking, you were aligning. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the right moment. There is no right moment. There is only now. And now is when you decide what you're going to accept and what you're going to demand from yourself, from your day, from your life. You want better? Ask. You want change? Ask. You want opportunity? Ask. But do it with your actions. Do it with your time. Do it with your discipline. Do it with your presence. That's the kind of ask that moves things. That's the kind of ask that gets answered. That's the kind of ask that says, I'm not just interested, I'm committed. Because when you ask like that, people don't just hear your words, they feel your intent. And that's what changes lives. You won't always get a yes right away. You won't always see the reward the moment you expect it. But every time you show up, prepared, focused, and aligned with your values, you're getting closer. Every time you speak with clarity instead of confusion, with courage instead of hesitation, you're closing the gap. You're becoming someone who can't be ignored, not because you're loud, but because you're consistent. So ask boldly. Ask without apology. Ask from a place of ownership. Not hoping someone else saves you, but proving that you've already saved yourself. That's when you ask and receive. Not because it was handed to you, but because you became someone who commands results with their effort, not with their wishes. You don't need magic. You need a reason. You need structure. You need clarity. You need to train yourself to act when it's hard, when it's boring, when nobody sees you doing it. You need to speak your vision into existence. Not once, not twice, but every single day through the way you live. And when your life matches the ask, the world listens. People respect it. Opportunities come. And not because you chased them, but because you prepared for them. That's the truth. Most people won't tell you. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to become undeniable. And when you are, you won't have to beg for what you want. You'll just ask and then walk straight into it. That's the power you've had all along. Not in your words, but in your habits. Not in your dreams, but in your execution. Not in your image, but in your integrity. You don't need more motivation. You need more movement. You don't need more opinions. You need more ownership. And the moment you truly get that, when it finally sinks in that nobody's going to give it to you just because you showed up, the whole game changes. You stop looking outward and start building inward. You stop wasting your energy on convincing people and start investing that energy into becoming someone who doesn't need convincing. You stop waiting for the right person to come along and give you a chance, and you start creating chances by showing them who you are before you even say a word. Asking is not begging. It's not pleading. It's not hoping someone picks you. Asking is what you do when you've put in the work, when you've stood tall through setbacks, when you've learned from your losses and still stayed in the fight. Asking is what you do when you're no longer trying to prove your worth to anyone, because you've already proven it to yourself. When you show up like that, your presence becomes a request. Your effort becomes a statement. Your consistency becomes a demand. You don't need to scream. You just need to walk in full alignment with your purpose, and the right doors will start unlocking. You won't even need to knock. That's how it works. The real ask is not in the words, it's in the walk. It's in what you do when nobody's watching. It's in the hours you spend getting sharper, stronger, wiser. It's in the days you keep showing up, without applause, without validation, without proof that it's all going to work out. Because you understand this one thing. You don't ask because you're unsure. You ask because you're ready. And readiness comes from discipline, from vision, from building a life where your ask matches your actions. A life where your word holds weight because your behavior has proven it over time. A life where when you finally speak up and say, "This is what I want," it doesn't sound like a wish. It sounds like a fact waiting to unfold. The people who get what they ask for aren't the loudest. They're the clearest. They know what they want. They know what they've done. And they know what they're willing to do. There's no confusion in their voice. No hesitation in their step. No doubt in their tone. Because they've already decided. You see, asking isn't just about confidence. It's about preparation. Confidence without preparation is arrogance. But when you've done the work, when you've lived the standard, when you've become the example, your ask doesn't sound like a question. It sounds like alignment. So if you're not getting what you want, don't get louder, get clearer. If you're not making progress, don't blame the world. Check your alignment. Ask yourself, am I really living in a way that supports the thing I say I want? Because if you're not, the answer will always be no. That's the hard truth, but it's also the most empowering truth. Because it puts the power back in your hands. It removes the excuses, it ends the waiting, and it starts the becoming. You don't need permission, you need precision. You don't need a breakthrough, you need to break old patterns. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be consistent. And when you live like that, you'll ask for something and get it. Not because you're lucky, not because you're special, but because you've built something unshakable inside of you. A standard, a spirit, a drive that refuses to settle. This is the way forward. No more soft requests, no more vague goals, no more trying to please everybody else and forgetting who you are. This is your life. And if you want more out of it, then step forward with clarity, speak with authority, move with intention, build with focus, and ask with power. Not because you hope they'll say yes, but because you already said yes to yourself. And once you've said yes to yourself, once you've committed without a fallback plan, once you've burned the old path and built a new one from the ground up, then asking isn't just a moment. It's a statement. It's a line in the sand. It's a clear signal that you're not available for anything less than the life you've prepared for. And that life, it's waiting on the other side of the ask you've been too afraid to make. So speak up, not for them, for you. Step up, not to prove something, but to claim something. Because once you stop asking from fear and start asking from strength, everything changes. Not overnight, but permanently. You become someone who doesn't chase outcomes, you create them. Someone who doesn't wish for respect, you embody it. Someone who doesn't ask for opportunity, you attract it. Someone who walks through life, not hoping it goes their way, but knowing that no matter what, they will find a way. That's how you ask for what you want, and get it. Every time. Because when you operate from that level, you're not hoping for approval. You're not waiting for someone to open a door for you out of kindness. You're moving like someone who knows their worth, someone who's put in the hours, someone who has built themselves from the inside out. That kind of energy is undeniable. That kind of mindset changes how people respond to you. It shifts the way they see you. You're not a question mark anymore. You're a walking answer. And that's what the world respects. Not entitlement, not desperation, but clarity backed by discipline. That's when people lean in. That's when the conversation changes. That's when the doors you thought were locked suddenly swing open. Not because you got lucky, but because you became someone who belonged on the other side. But you've got to make a decision right here, right now, to never ask small again, to never shrink your vision to fit into someone else's comfort zone, to never lower your standards just to make rejection feel easier. That's not your path. That's not your calling. Your life is too valuable. Your time is too limited, and your potential is too real to waste it. Asking small. Small asks come from small belief, and small belief will keep you playing a small life. If you want something more, really want it, then you've got to stop hiding behind uncertainty. You've got to stop questioning your value. You've got to stop thinking that maybe one day someone will give you permission to live at full capacity. You're not here to survive. You're here to rise. You're here to take that voice inside of you, that quiet, relentless fire, and turn it into something real, something powerful, something lasting. And yes, it will take effort. Yes, it will take time. Yes, you will get rejected. You will face silence. You will be ignored. But those aren't reasons to quit. Those are signals that you're on the right path, because no one gets to the life they want without passing through resistance. You don't get strength without struggle. You don't get confidence without challenge. You don't get your voice heard by whispering through the noise. So ask again and again and again. Not because you're begging, but because you're building. Not because you're entitled, but because you're earning. Not because you're uncertain, but because you've never been more sure of what you want and who you are. This is what separates winners from watchers, builders from blamers, leaders from followers. The winners keep asking. Even after 100 no's, they keep sharpening. Even when no one's watching, they keep believing. Even when the evidence hasn't caught up yet. And in time, everything catches up. The recognition, the opportunity, the life. Because the ask never stopped, and the effort never broke. Most people wait. They wait for signs. They wait for someone to notice them. They wait for the fear to go away. But fear doesn't go away. You outgrow it. You don't silence it by hiding. You silence it by walking forward in the middle of it. That's when you begin to ask. Not as someone hoping to be chosen, but as someone who's already chosen themselves. This isn't about tricks or tactics. It's about power. Inner power. The kind of power that doesn't fade when people doubt you. The kind of power that doesn't shrink when results take time. The kind of power that shows up, day after day, with or without applause. Because when you've done the inner work, when you've shaped your mind, disciplined your emotions, aligned your actions, asking isn't scary anymore. It's natural. It's just the next step in a long chain of consistent, intentional choices that brought you here. So if you're tired of waiting, if you're tired of hoping someone finally gives you the green light, if you're done shrinking yourself for a world that told you to be realistic, then make the ask. Ask for the job. Ask for the sale. Ask for the raise. Ask for the opportunity. Ask for the support. Ask for the connection. Ask for the truth. Ask for the life that you're finally ready to live. Because nothing changes until you do. And nothing begins until you open your mouth. Not just to speak, but to declare. Declare what you want. Declare what you stand for. Declare what you're no longer available for. Declare who you are, without apology, without hesitation, without needing anyone else to confirm it for you. You've spent enough time waiting. Now it's your turn to step forward and ask like someone who's already earned it. Because you have. You've earned this moment. Now claim it.